Hello,
Hello.
how are you?
Good, thank you. Glad to see the sound is working.
Yes, me too. Do we have a couple more people that we are waiting for?
Yes, we do. We have two other presenters. I just hopped on a little bit early.
Okay, perfect. We will wait for them.
Yeah,
Um, um, do you are you going to be sharing a slideshow or will one of them be sharing a slideshow for the session?
Yes, Tali Horowitz will be sharing her slides, her deck, I believe, her screen.
Okay, perfect. Then when she joins, we'll go ahead and do a run through of that. We'll wait on her. Hi.
Track. And hi, I'm not sure who track three is, but happy to meet.
Hi. Oh, you're here. Good.
Hi. I'm Andrea. I am just the BW representative running or hosting the Zoom meeting.
Oh, great. Thanks, Andrea.
Yeah, of course.
Jackie, you're
Um,
doing great.
so I believe there's one more presenter that we're waiting for.
Yeah, and should I just make sure that I can share my screen and everything?
Yeah, go ahead and share your screen with your slideshow. And if you want to run through just a few slides just so we can make sure it looks okay.
Yeah. And then okay. So here's our agenda. I was still, Jackie, trying to take some, I got nervous about too many research slides.
The research slides, I had a feeling
So
you were going to be
yeah.
nervous.
So I will happily still, if you even while I'm doing this, want to look again, if you think there's any else that we could cut.
Okay, just roll with it.
Hey, Mom, can I put on the podcast? Can I put on the podcast?
I'm gonna get you set up, go get the speakers. All right.
Oh, can I say hi?
You cannot say hi
Why?
because this is a big PD. Sorry. Okay. Okay, feelings out. I think that this is all looking good.
Okay, it looks good.
Mommy,
Great.
mommy.
All right,
Great.
I am going to go. I'm going to stop sharing for a moment while I just close my tabs and I'm going to mute myself. Hi, Laura.
Hello. Sorry, I'm like literally like gulping the last little bit of my smoothie.
And before we start, just a reminder that the session will need to run between 40 and 45 minutes for the credit requirements. So that should put us ending at 10:30, I believe.
Yep.
Just that reminder. And then do all three of you guys want to be spotlighted in the session?
Yes, that's perfect.
Okay, I'll go ahead and spotlight you guys. and then the session shouldn't start until 9:45. So I'll go ahead and give you guys a 60-second heads up when it's about to start. And then at 6:40, or sorry, 9:45, just wait about 30 seconds to let everyone.
Did you also spotlight me? I'm
Join.
sorry, I don't see myself on the screen.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Let me go ahead and spotlight you as well.
Thank you.
Add spotlight. Okay, you guys should all three be spotlighted.
Perfect.
Yeah, I'll give you a 60-second heads up, and then at 9:45, just wait about 30 seconds, and then you should be able to share your screen, Tolly, with the slideshow, and then we should be good to go.
Can you guys confirm that you can't hear any background from me right now?
Or nothing.
Yeah, nothing. They're quiet.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got a podcast on in the background. That's why.
Good.
Yeah.
How did, actually, while we're doing a test, how about mine?
You sound great.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good.
Oh, wait, now I'm hearing
Now
a
you
little of
can
the
hear it,
podcast.
right?
But do you
Yeah.
have your noise suppression on?
I don't know if I know how to do that. Is that
So-
under?
Audio settings, where the mic is, go to audio settings. That'll bring up audio, and then it should have like somewhere on the screen under audio profile, Zoom background noise removal. Turn it to high. Like pick the high setting.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Laura. Why would it not be on high all the time for me? Like,
It
Yeah.
it shuts off sometimes, honestly. Like I have to toggle mine on and off.
yeah, that's great. Guys, this conference has already been very successful.
just on that one feature alone.
Just for me learning that one hot tip. Yeah.
We have just a little less than 60 seconds to go before Swoogo will launch. 9:45, wait about 30 seconds, and then you should be good to start. And then make sure to just wrap up by 10:30, and then I will end the session, and then there we go.
And
Thank
then
you.
we'll see you right after that.
Yep, right after.
Yeah, we can just stay in this Zoom, right? Yeah.
You
No.
should, I will
think-
end it. I'll end
Yeah,
it.
and we'll
so
have to
then,
go back in.
right,
Okay, but
yeah.
it's the same link. Okay, got it, got it.
Exactly.
I
Alright.
can't remember. Do we start by sharing our screen? Like, should I have my screen shared right now?
Yeah, share it. You can.
Great. Okay,
Yeah, have the opening slide deck, and then I'll drop the link for the deck and the agenda. So
okay, great.
Yeah.
A little loud. gonna get water. Hold on.
All right, and I see some folks coming in. So in the chat, you're going to see the deck and the agenda. You also have it on your screen. Polly will be sharing her screen the entire time today. You can scan that QR code that'll bring you to this deck. Just a little tip, because you're probably going to be attending a lot of sessions today and you're going to be getting a lot of resources. With that agenda that I'm going to continue to share in the chat. And you can also do it with the slide deck. There's a little star icon that you can star, and that'll put it in your star folder. And it's just easy then to find it later when you're like trying to find all the goodies.
I love that tip, Laura. Always so helpful. Good morning, everyone. We are delighted to be with you today. We are going to be talking about how we can support our students' digital well-being, since this is so critical because it's really about our overall well-being. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into things right now. I'm going to invite Laura to introduce herself, and then Jackie.
Thank you. Thank you. So good morning, all. My name is Laura Ogando, and I serve as an instructional technology specialist with the Manhattan division of DIIT. I started out in the classroom. I was a special educator at the elementary level, taught self-contained, taught ICT, did a lot of work with technology with my students, and it's what brought me into the tech space in my school. And I've just been doing this work ever since. So super excited to be presenting alongside my colleagues, Polly and Jackie. And I'm going to pass it to Jackie to introduce herself.
Good morning, everyone. I am Jackie Papanio. I'm the Executive Director of SPMP here in Staten Island for DIIT. I've been in District 31 pretty much my whole career. Started out at PS16 as a teacher and an instructional technology coach for about 10, 11 years, and then made my way to the district office. In that time, I've had the pleasure of working with Polly very closely when it came to implementing DigCit in my school, and then with Laura when it came to the district. And now I am at DIIT, getting to do this work citywide and with my district. So I am very happy to be here and share all this wonderful work around well-being with common sense. Polly, pass to you.
Thanks, Jackie. And this is one of my favorite conferences. So thanks, everyone. I always welcome an opportunity to present with both these ladies. I'm from Common Sense. We are a nonprofit organization. Everything we share with you today is free. We have had a partnership with New York City Public Schools for over a dozen years. I've been with Common Sense for over a dozen years. My background is actually as an elementary school teacher with the DOE. And I also have to say I am a parent of two elementary school age kids. You might, hopefully won't hear them in the background, but my kids are happy. So I have to thank you all, because I know you are working so hard, and I appreciate it as a parent as well as a person in this world. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Laura to talk a little bit about today's session.
So as you're already seeing, we are quite a large group. We're almost at 900 folks. And while I love all the good mornings in the chat, I'm just going to remind folks, let's use the chat to engage, because this is a large group. We want you to use the chat questions to share thoughts and ideas. So you don't need to, as much as I love it, you don't need to put your DBN. You don't need to say good morning. Again, we're all feeling the vibes this morning. And especially after that keynote from Adam, I'm just like hanging on every word. Other thing, because it's going to come up at some point, CTLE is being awarded. You don't have to ask for it. You don't have to throw that DBN into the chat. You're going to get correspondence after today's session. I think that they actually send it tomorrow, so we don't need to answer CTLE. And then everything is linked in the agenda. So we will continue to pop the deck and the agenda. Thanks, Jackie. We'll continue to pop those into the chat, but just save those resources. Like I said, press that little star button at the top. That'll put it in your starred folder. And please feel free to use our resources. This also comes up like, hey, can I take your slide deck? Can I share it with my staff? The answer is always yes. Sharing is caring. So spread this knowledge with your colleagues. And with that, I think we are ready to actually dive into it today.
So this is kind of your last helpful big outline slide. Again, you've got that QR code. If you do not already have a free Common Sense account, please go ahead and register now. Use your schools.nyc email. There's an option to sign in via Google. Skip that, just use your schools one. And so let's jump into it. Why should we take a proactive approach to digital wellness? Why is this so important? So we're going to start off spending a little bit of time talking about that. We're going to share with you some of the latest research from Common Sense. We're going to talk about the digital stressors that our kids are feeling and that we might be feeling as well. And we're going to share with you some resources that you can introduce right away. And the reason we have start at the bottom, this model healthy online habits, I know that Jackie and Laura will remind us of this throughout, but with all of our students, whether with our littlest ones or our ones who are, about to graduate, they're watching what we're doing, and we're all kind of struggling in this digital world. And so as much as we can be modeling or talking through our own struggles and our own habits, that is helpful for our students in terms of that modeling and guidance. So Jackie, can you go ahead and define for us digital well-being?
So digital well-being is experiencing media and technology in ways that support one's mental, physical, and social emotional health.
Thank you. So go ahead and share in the chat right now. What are some of your biggest concerns around your students' digital well-being? Laura and Jackie know I'm a terrible multitasker, so I will not be looking at the chat because I'm sharing my screen.
We will. We'll look at the
Yes,
chat.
We will. And I'm already seeing a lot of folks talking about cyberbullying and bullying and safety,
Lack of guidance in here too.
Mental health, depression, peer pressure, body shaming. Oh man, it's coming in hot.
Safety, pretty much everything all encompassed. Addicted to iPads, mental health. Okay.
Staying on task, hiding behind the screen. I just saw that one scroll by.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Consuming quality time. Oh, it's consuming quality time. Okay. Addiction, screen addiction.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Lisa Nielsen, shout out to Lisa Nielsen from DIIT, and I attended a digital parenthood summit earlier this week, and I'm going to share a couple highlights, but there was a youth panel, and then afterwards talking to some of the younger people in attendance, they talked a lot about the I can't be alone with my thoughts, how there's all these memes around that and that you have to have that level of distraction all the time. So I was just thinking about that with some of what you brought up. And I think about also with Dana Boyd, from however many years ago, where she talked about the digital world mirroring and magnifying all of the existing issues that we have. And I feel like I see you nodding, Laura. It's like on steroids today, right? In so many ways.
Yeah.
So actually, what I'm going to share right now is Common Sense does quite a bit of research. This is to inform the free educational resources and caregiver parent advice we provide. And this is our latest report called A Double-Edged Sword. It's a long title. It's in the full title of it is in your agenda as well, with a lot of great information. We're just sharing some tidbits from it. But basically, this first slide here is showing that, depression levels that had really escalated during the pandemic have come back down. But they're still pretty high. And the truth is that we have, for our students who are suffering with some depressive symptoms, they continue to be high. And also different communities are struggling more than others. Anything to add here, ladies?
I think it's so interesting that we're essentially right back where we started, right? There's been a lot of talk about what the pandemic did. And I think it's so interesting that it's all right, technically, I think we are past the pandemic and you're seeing look, we're right back to where it was. I don't think blaming the pandemic is going to fix all of this. That's, I think, where a lot of folks have been trying to have that conversation. And really the data is not supportive of that line of thinking, that these problems existed before the pandemic.
Yeah. So now we're going to break into looking specifically at different communities and their use of social media. So here we've got Black and Latino young people are using social media more for connecting with people, whether that's with family and also with sharing similar interests, finding out more about professional, academic opportunities, expressing themselves creatively, all really critical and important pieces. And then, again, that double-edged sword, there's a lot more harassment or negative experiences that they're also experiencing. And so you see here, Black and Latino young people are twice as likely to take a permanent break from social media or to take temporary breaks. And this was really echoed at that youth panel that I saw earlier this week too. Anything to add here, ladies, or anything that's popping up in the chat? In the chat, feel free to share any thoughts or reactions you have as well. And we're grounding this in this research because this is really about providing that why of why it's so important to talk about digital well-being and to infuse that into our schools. Were you going to say something, Laura?
No, just in agreement. I like
Okay.
this conversation is important, and just talking about that duality, because unlike I actually, like with many things, it's not black and white. It's not, one thing is all good, all bad. I think sometimes we're seeing that narrative with social media that it's this completely bad thing. And in truth, it can be a really positive space. So having to contend with both like the positives, but also the really, really bad negatives, right? Like it's not either or, it's and. It's both at the same time.
And this slide really speaks to that. So another group that we looked at was LGBTQ plus community, and seeing that, in so many ways, this has been a safe outlet for a lot of young people. They've been able to find community. I mean, I know this came up in the chat, someone talking about, issues around body. So here you've got positive body comments. And at the same time, again, they are more exposed to the racism, the body shaming, the sexism, homophobia. And so it can also be that more toxic space. And I think we also have to remember that there's a lot of intersections, right? We don't have kids who just fit into one, oh, I'm just LGBTQ and I'm completely, neurotypical and a white boy. You can have a lot of overlapping. I can be a young white woman who's not neurotypical, who's LGBTQ plus, who's, I don't have to go through all the different combinations. But so I think it's just important to think about that climate and how what we really, really want to do is help our young people find the good stuff and really what are the strategies for staying away from the negative. And so this part, we were talking about quite a bit. So we looked at, the study was looking at 14 to 22-year-olds, and we broke it up into 14 to 17 and then 18 to 22. And so this was interesting that kind of older young adults felt like that they can't control their social media or are using it longer than they plan to, compared to 42% of teens. And that they're also feeling more of those impacts on their attention, where teens are saying like, hey, we're not feeling it quite as much. So we were talking about, we don't know if that's because younger kids are getting more strategies or starting to figure this out, or older teens are saying like, hey, we're seeing those impacts more. Any thoughts from people in the chat on that, or Jackie or Laura?
Well, I was going to say, I'm seeing in the chat, a question that came up is like, now that we're sharing this research, what do you do with it? And we will be talking about that. Is the big question, right? But I really think all of this data just serves to inform us, because while we can certainly point fingers and say like social media is all bad, it's all this, I actually think part of the answer is empowering our users to see this data and to know and be aware that this is what's happening, so that you can make a more informed decision. I'm seeing a lot of folks in the chat say like, I make time to disconnect. I make time to meditate. I make time to do these things. That's a choice. We want to empower our youth to make these choices and to not just kind of go along with what social media is telling you to do.
Right. And what Cynthia had put in there is that it is a generational thing. They're growing up with this. This is their norm. This is how they live. And kind of that proactive approach in, how do I now go from this and make better choices and be able to kind of speak up for myself or advocate or just be empowered with the tools that I have, right?
Well, and I think that kind of connects to thinking through what are some ways that we can start to infuse this in our classrooms and schools. So these are some check-in questions that we were thinking about. And actually, Laura, do you mind talking through these a little bit?
Absolutely. So, again, the question of like, how do we do this? And I think oftentimes, you hear things like, oh, just talk with students, like pull up alongside them, ask them how they're doing. It's a really vague question. And, when we ask vague questions, we get the one-word responses like, I'm okay, fine, right? Like, how was your day? Good. Let's be really explicit. Let's talk to them and actually get to the root of what we want to find out. So instead of saying things like, how are you doing? students explicitly, what have your last 5 interactions been like for you, either in person or online? Because that'll tell you right there, like, are you encountering a lot of negativity? Have you just had, a big old fight through social media or through a grouped text message? That's going to give you some information. In terms of movement, right? When was the last time you moved your body or engaged in exercise or did something physical in nature? A lot of folks in the chat have said, like, I worry about my students. They're just in front of a screen. They're in front of a screen all day long. Well, are they really? Ask them, what does your movement look like? And then I think the really big one too is, what about the sleep, right? What is your pre-sleep and post-sleep routine? And I think, when you ask these questions, you'll find that a lot of the pre and post-sleep routines do include tech, right? We know our students are falling asleep with the phone in their hand. And the first thing they do when they wake up is they check the phone, see, my notifications. They go on their TikTok and their social media to see like what happened while I was asleep. So asking really explicit questions actually helps us get at the root of what we're trying to find out, because just saying like, how you doing, how you feeling, that's not enough.
And to your point too, Laura, and I saw this in the chat, is there's some comments like reflecting on teen self-awareness, for example. All of this is about building self-awareness, building agency, and just getting young people to reflect themselves on like what is helpful to them and what is not necessarily helpful. And we had some thoughts too about where you could incorporate this, whether this is like an opening journal exercise, for younger grades, if you have any do nows or morning meetings, these could be the types of questions as well. Potentially exit tickets. So kind of thinking through, and if you have other ideas or have used these types of questions in your classroom, please share in the chat. So now let's jump into thinking about some digital issues. So we've already highlighted through the research and through our conversation that we know that technology use can be great for, all these great positives and also the negatives. Again, going back to this youth panel I was talking about, one of the young men there talked about how he really developed body dysmorphia and real eating disorders, which he attributed to the algorithms he was directed at and what he was seeing online. And then on the flip side, he was like, I've really found positive communities to help me get out of this. So again, that double-edged piece here. I also just wanted to say, I know in the chat, someone asked, is there anything about how young people are actually using their devices versus just self-reporting? This report down here, Constant Companion, we did this earlier this year where we actually tracked the phone and saw how much time kids were spending online. So feel free to dive into that report if that's of interest to you. So what we really want to do is normalize these digital dilemmas. So Jackie, do you mind talking us through this dilemma?
Of course. So this is one of the dilemmas that you could find on Common Sense, and very big on having these dilemmas so that you can have these conversations in your class. So Daryl recorded a humiliating video of Jared and posted it on his story for everyone to see. Jared was mortified and asked Daryl to please stop and take the video down. Daryl didn't listen. He thought the video was really funny. Plus, a lot of people were commenting and saying Daryl was hilarious for posting it. By the next day, it seemed like everyone at the school had seen the video. Jared tried to act like it didn't bother him, but he was really embarrassed and went straight home after school instead of going to his basketball game he and all his friends had been looking forward to. So this is just one example of a dilemma looking at how Daryl and Jared are interacting with each other and what is it that is going on in this situation, right? So you want to go to the... So these are the feeling and these are the thinking and feeling routines, right? So we identify who are the different people involved in the scenario, what dilemma or challenge are they facing? Think about the feel. What do you think each person in the dilemma is feeling? Imagine options and how the situation could be handled, and then say, thinking more about the ideas you choose for handling the situation that could the people involved say, okay? So these are just some of the ways that we can now look at what happened between Daryl and Jared. And let's think about identifying the situation in the chat. So who are the different people involved and what are they facing?
And really with this, thanks, Jackie. And really with this is, we're really trying to get kids to slow down and reflect, You know, as adults, we might have very quick reactions about, oh, I know how this person is feeling, or I know what they should be doing or shouldn't be doing. But we want to get at some of that complexity and really think about the different perspectives there. You know, why might Daryl be doing that? What would be the purpose of him putting up this humiliating video? Besides, you know, my first reaction might be like, what a jerk. But like, is he getting a lot of social capital from that? You know, what's maybe the history between both of these kids? What's been going on before? And then really thinking through those feelings so that we're getting at those feelings. And then, Jackie, this is always my favorite, that imagining those options and hearing from kids. Like, this can be where the role play comes in, because the full part of this is not just how the situation could be handled, but so that everybody feels as good as possible, right? That's what we're looking for, is that positive outcome. I'd be curious, as people are sharing in the chat, if anyone has used any digital dilemmas or kind of any role play to talk through situations like that. If you have, please share in the chat. So as Jackie just highlighted, this is one of our thinking routines. We have the feelings and options ones. We have other ones as well. We've got the direct links, which we can drop in the chat and are also on your agenda. And this is really that underlying theory or approach with common sense about skills and dispositions, right? So skills are like, oh, I know how to create a strong password, for example, but that disposition is like, why is it important for me to think about that privacy? What does that actually look like? Laura, here's another dilemma that we were thinking about. Can you talk us through this one?
Absolutely. Dina is a high school student with an Instagram account. She's very social and has lots of different groups of friends, and typically accepts everyone's invite to follow her. Recently, she went out with a new group of friends, and someone posted a group photo and tagged Nina along with a lot of other people. In the photo, Nina is standing next to people holding vapes and beer bottles. Nina is starting to think about college applications and is upset because this new friend never asked permission to post, but doesn't want to confront the person and make things awkward. So again, yet another scenario that our young people might be facing. And if you're starting to see, like, these are kind of based on real life situations, they are. But as both Tali and Jackie were saying, posing it in this hypothetical, sense, right? Like, and doing these dilemmas with your class, it allows them to role play and practice. And the practice is really key, because we know that with our students, like, they're young, right? This part of their brain, the frontal cortex, is still developing. So oftentimes when they're faced with a situation, they have a knee-jerk reaction. And that knee-jerk reaction usually isn't good, right? They pick the thing that makes it worse. So when we're doing these, that is what the routines are designed to do. They're designed to actually slow down the thinking. Before we make that knee-jerk reaction, let's talk it through, right? What should Nina do? Because she could totally, go on her account and blast folks and, start, getting really angry. Or we could take a step back, right? And let's think it through. So that is what these are designed to do. And hopefully, if we take this proactive approach, when kids are actually faced with dilemmas that look like this, they take those few moments to slow it down.
So real quick, something that Kim actually put in the chat, I think is very important for many of us, is that a lot of us didn't grow up like this, right? We're in generations where we were either, born as, was it Gen X, millennial, whatever it is, but like, we grew up in a very different time. So it's a very different situation for us to be able to look at these dilemmas and really come at it from a different lens. So not being immersed in it like they are, it's definitely a learning curve for all of us, and how we have to kind of be open to these discussions and look at it from a different perspective. And like we mentioned earlier, talk to the kids, ask them the questions, get into their heads and try to really understand what is it that's going on. So just wanted to pull that up after I saw that in the chat with Kim.
Yeah, I think that is such a great point. And I also saw in the chat a lot of good ideas about doing these in small groups, having the dilemmas. I think someone, I'm not sure if they shared it with everyone, was like, yeah, we try to do these things. It seems like the kids in the moment say the right thing, but then on their own, I don't know if they are. Totally get it. I think that's always going to be the case. But part of the idea with this is, I almost think about it as like athletic training, is like you're building that muscle memory. So of course, it's not going to solve for everything, but the idea is that, hey, I'm training enough that, like, when I'm in that moment and I get that text at 10 p.m., I really think before I respond or send that photo or do that action. And it might not work every time, but it's
Well,
still
let's also, let's
Yeah.
not forget that with pretty much any lesson we teach, like how many times as educators you teach it one time and it doesn't quite stick, right? Like I think too, like we get frustrated as educators because we're like, well, but I told you we had that lesson 2 weeks ago. And it's like, yeah, you had that one lesson. This is something we constantly have to go back to. So we also can't hit ourselves as educators and think like, oh, but I did that lesson. We talked about it. You gave that really beautiful response. Don't you know better? Like that's also super disingenuous. Let's build that space and give these students permission because they're going to make mistakes. Like it's not going to always be perfect.
I have a quick story, Holly, if you permit me, Laura, to share, only because it relates directly to this and sharing things that are videoed or on. My sister fell yesterday down the stairs, and it was caught on video. And full transparency, like she's okay. She went to the ER, she's okay. But I saw the video because her and a friend of mine sent it to me, and we laughed hysterical because it was very funny to see. And my son was watching it. My son is in fourth grade. And he's like, that's hysterical. Can you send it to me? And I was like, oh, sure. And then I'm like, wait a minute, wait. I was like, before we send embarrassing videos of your aunt, I was like, we shouldn't be sharing these things. I had to actually stop, have that teaching moment for myself, reflect, and then tell him, we don't share these type of things. Like we laughed, I saw it, she's okay, but please, these are not things that we share. And think about that when people are sending videos or you're looking at videos in the future. So it pertains to this somewhat, but it was a really good teaching moment. And I am glad she's okay. Her ankle is fine.
I think that is a great example, Jackie, and you on the realizing that and reflecting. And I think this also connects back with consent too and normalizing it. So for us as adults, either on the spot being like, hey, I actually know she wouldn't be okay with it, or saying like, I think this could be embarrassing, or I'm not sure. Let me ask her. I need to ask first, or before when I'm taking that photo, I'm thinking about if with Nina, with her friends, if someone's like, okay, if I post it, and that was just normalized. And I think we can start practicing this. I did see in the chat a question where someone said, naive question, but would colleges actually be searching for applicants? The answer is yes. Colleges, potential jobs and employers are absolutely looking at young people's digital footprints. They're looking at our digital footprints if we're also looking for jobs or thinking about going back to school as well. Anything else here? Oh, I know. I wanted to ask you both and everyone in the chat one last question here. We're going to think about how to bring this back, but I saw a lot of people say small groups, advisory. I would love to share any other ideas you have for how to normalize this. So to Laura's point, it's not just like, well, we did it one time, but it's part of our regular routine. I know I've heard from some educators, they take a restorative justice approach, and this can fit in nicely there. Someone in the chat said that they were concerned that a lot of young people are concerned about setting boundaries and looking like a bad friend. So how do we kind of have conversations around what does it mean to be a good friend? Jackie, Laura, and I did a couple presentations for teen councils where we were talking about friendship. It was related to AI chatbots. But I don't know, for both of you, I was so impressed with how kids were thinking about what it means to be a good friend, and that it's not always about telling someone something they want to hear. It was about being honest and thinking about the other person. So I think, again, having those types of conversations.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I get it. Like, sometimes our kids tell us what we think we want to hear. And so maybe the answers sound more polished during the lesson and during class time. And then sometimes what they do is different, but that's kids, right? Like that's how they're going to be. And we hope that as they continue to grow and develop, they will make those things that they talk about part of their habit. But we have to give kids grace to be kids, because I remember what it was like at that time in my life. And I did all sorts of things I wasn't supposed to do. And I thank the Lord every day that there wasn't a camera capturing all the craziness. I think childhood is very different today.
Well, that's going to be our next talk is all about Laura's childhood and all the things that we wish we could have seen. I do want to just highlight, I know, someone in the chat just put, having their back, but calling them out when they're not doing the right thing. And I think about that, like both in terms of being a good friend and to some extent, being a teacher, educator, or, mentor. Yeah. And that's even practicing. Someone else put in, it's okay to say, please don't tag me.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Oh, and I love this. All advice cannot and should not only come from teachers. That is exactly the point of these types of dilemmas, is that you're having kids mentor each other. You know, I talk about Sparkle Peters at like every PD I feel like we do. She's a colleague of ours who teaches at the high school level and is fantastic. And she talks about how with these digital dilemmas later in the school year, she'll have the students lead them themselves as they've, you know, after she's kind of modeled through it, and they'll bring in their own dilemmas too and kind of talk through it, which I always love. Okay, so I'm going to highlight right now. So we talked about the dilemmas. We have a link to those. We also invite you to create your own or create them with students. Always, of course, not using ones that are exactly true to life. Thank you. Or, you know, changing names and things like that. We also have this newer suite of digital well-being lessons. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this right now, where it says lesson experience at the bottom. So when you go to this, you'll see that it shows lessons for K through 12. You can just scroll down to see them. I'm going to highlight them for you here. But for younger kids, we've got all these lessons. You can just see the title, Pause for People. How does technology make you feel? And then once we hit middle school, the middle school and high school ones are mostly similar, but they're really inviting kids to reflect on their values in technology. We did that at a different Beyond Access conference, but where kids think about, hey, what are my core values? And are my tech habits, are they supporting those values or are they hindering them? And then thinking traps, what are kind of the negative thought patterns we might get into? How are tech companies trying to hook us? You know, so moving away from, oh, I'm so weak, I can't get off my phone, to, wait, there are people who are spending all their time and money trying to keep us on our phones all day. How can we take some agency back? And then ending with, how do we develop positive tech habits? So we really invite you to look at these. They come with pacing guides as well. Yeah, Jackie, were you going to say something?
No, I was just gonna say this just makes life so much easier having these. They're very thoughtful resources and they are super accessible to everybody when you open them. It's just such a good resource to have. And somebody had asked in the chat about lower grades. So I believe that, you know, when you look at these, you can kind of decide whether or not you want to use them with like maybe an upper elementary, like a fourth or fifth grade, see if they're developmentally appropriate. Laura always says, you know, you can definitely use lower and upper and tailor it to the needs of your students. But Holly, are you guys coming up with lessons that are geared more? Oh, there they are. We have. Okay, perfect. There
So
they
no,
are.
I'm so glad that question. So when you go to that link, and I don't know if we have it in the slides, but if someone can drop it in the chat. I mean, I can even just click, well, this is kindergarten. Let me click on a fourth grade one. But, you know, I would say, especially, I know upper grade teachers, there's always that feeling like, I wish this was being taught at the younger and younger grade levels. So elementary, that's where I lived. Like, let's talk about this early and often. But here's just an example. This is a fourth grade lesson, which you could easily use for younger kids too. But what makes a healthy media choice? So starting to already think about that. This is a 45-minute lesson, but you could also make it shorter. Oh, and I'm so glad that person asked that question too. Wanted to highlight, so when you're in these lessons, you always have access to slides, the videos, but there's always family activities. So I know there were some comments in the chat about, you know, families' roles in all of this when kids are at home. These are great resources. We have different activities, and then the family tips are available in 10 languages. And they're really kind of straightforward. So this is one about media balance. And again, it's available. They're available in most of the official DOE languages. And we are going to be having Haitian Creole come out soon. I'm not exactly sure when, but soon. Okay. Anything to add here, ladies?
I just find these to be some of the most amazing lessons, to be quite honest. And these really can be incorporated, as we have shown you, you know, any grade. If you're on the lower grade, you know, as part of morning meeting, your circle time. As you get up there in grades, it can be part of your advisory. You know, we actually, Jackie and myself, had just been visiting schools this week. We were out in Staten Island. We were at a school on Tuesday, and seeing like so many teachers do brain breaks and movement breaks with their kids. Like this all connects, this all ties in. So whatever you're already doing, chances are you can kind of like slip this in. And again, you know, these resources are here for you to customize. So if you're looking at this lesson going, ooh, I like this one piece, I want to do this one piece and then combine it with something I do with Tassel or, you know, another program that we have, by all means, go for it. Trust your as educators. You know your students, you know what they need, you know what's going to work. So pick the best, make it yours.
Oh, go ahead, Jackie.
So something that had come up in one of the Q&A and chats is that, like, you know, some topics can be a little bit scary to address with the class, but like Laura said, this is a collective approach. So guidance counselors, social workers, we definitely encourage you to involve them in these lessons, in these situations, so that there is that open dialogue and students know that this is important because everybody is kind of collectively working together towards this. So I just wanted to bring that up as well, that it is, like Laura said, can be drop shipped in different areas of your school, which is important to know.
Totally, totally. And I remember when I first started teaching, shout out to Miss Taylor. She taught a different class, had an amazing relationship with her students. And I would periodically, when I had a new topic that I was worried about, I would ask her sometimes during her free lesson. She was amazing. She would come in and co-teach with me or offer that support. Or she would teach the lesson and then tell me how it went and what were the things to kind of watch out for. So yeah, let's rely on each other in a lot of different ways. I did drop a link in the chat for the full curriculum because someone said, please do talk about kindergarten. On the digital well-being, there are lessons for kindergarten, but I also did want to show when you go to that link at the very beginning, it says grades K to 2 meet the digital citizens. These are a series of 6 videos. The videos are 1 minute. The lessons are 15 minutes. I don't have to tell all of you, you could make them shorter or longer, but these are great and really help for our littlest learners to start thinking about their digital habits and practices, and they're very sweet. Okay, I'm going to take us, you know what, while I'm jumping around, I do want to just show you all again, you do have the agenda and just want to show you all of these links are right here. And actually, you know what I think, Laura, Jackie, will one of you add the direct link to the full curriculum under resources?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. And since you're sharing this, because it came up in the chat as well, that people were wondering like where we were getting our data, like especially some of those graphs, some of those percentages. That report is linked in the agenda. So if folks want to dive a little deeper into the data, they want to know more about what was said, how this was collected, this is the report, and it's actually quite comprehensive. So if you're kind of like a data geek like I am and you want to really pour into it, you can read the full report. But really, really informative. And again, so many great resources that come to us from Common Sense, completely 1000% free. And I always feel like free is the magic word when it comes to education. It's like, oh, the minute you charge me one single penny, I'm out.
Yeah, and it's because we're a mission-based nonprofit. So just this is not like a bait and switch. I want to say too, thanks, Laura, for highlighting the report. When you click on that link, if you want, there are more resources here, including you can see advice for parents and caregivers, and you've got a link to those digital well-being lessons too. So, and we had partnered with Hope Lab. So a bunch of stuff if you want to spend more time there. Okay, so I'm going to move away from this. I'm going to take us back to the slides. And sorry, I'm going to somehow, even without a million tabs open. All right, let's, going to take us right there again. Let's click the slide. There we go. All right, let's think about how are we bringing this back? We've been kind of infusing that throughout, but we want to be that much more explicit. And honestly, we would love if you left today with like a commitment, like I'm going to do this one activity, or I'm going to teach this one thing, or I'm going to talk about this with my parent coordinator or my guidance counselor. So we're going to invite you to think right now about what is the one action you're going to take. If you want to take several actions, that's great, but at least one. And then Laura, can you talk us through if we would like some ideas?
Absolutely. So, you know, look, I get it. We're at the tail end of the year. You're probably not looking to start anything new, you know, come, well, I was going to say June 7th, but tomorrow's a clerical day. So come June 10th, you're still not going to launch any of this stuff. what you should be doing is that forward planning. All right. As you're starting to think about what's our September going to look like. So now's actually a really good time to talk about this with that leadership team. As Jackie said, rope in that guidance counselor. Rope in your parent coordinator. Parent coordinators are actually super critical to this work. We've been working a lot with our parent coordinators because they're the ones that help disseminate this information to families. So make sure you've got your parent coordinator, make sure you've got teacher leaders within your building. If you're at the elementary level, maybe it's, you know, a rep from each grade, or, you know, someone from upper, someone from lower. If you're at the middle or high school level, you know, someone from each department. You know, if you have instructional coaches in your building, but assemble a team of folks that are dedicated to getting this done. And thinking about what that work is going to look like, right? Gather your staff. Maybe you're going to do this during a Monday PD in the next few weeks, but start having conversations about who's going to teach what, because this does feel like a lot. And actually, one of the questions in the Q&A was like, you know, where do I teach this? This is like, you're adding yet another thing on my plate. And I get it, absolutely. But if you take a whole school approach and like, hey, the ELA teacher takes a component, the phys ed teacher takes a component, you know, your computer science teacher takes the component. If everyone takes it, then it's not the heavy. And actually, because of the way technology is, no one single teacher should be responsible for any of this. We're all using technology in our classrooms, so we all have a responsibility. And then once you kind of decide what this is going to look like, have some goals, right? Like, you know, maybe you're going to say, like, we're going to meet once every month to kind of check in. We'll bring it up at our Monday PDs. You know, and we'll figure out like where we need to kind of stop and address things, go deeper, try something new. But this just gives you something kind of palatable to do. Because I get it. It always feels like a lot. They always put more on our plate. They never take away. But this really will fit in with pretty much whatever you're already doing in your school. I know SEL has been the buzzword. So if you've already got an SEL curriculum, weave this on in. It's really actually not all that different. And really good SEL curriculums have this digital component to them.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Laura. We're going to highlight some things from the chat because so many good ideas. But first, Jackie's just going to speak about a logistic.
One logistical thing. I feel like this is my favorite. When you are signing up for Common Sense, don't click on sign in with Google, which is the SSO. Don't do that. It will not let you. It'll give you like an error and say you're not allowed in. Just sign up with, you can still use your DOE email, but just sign up where it says sign up with email. Don't do the single sign on. You'll get the error. Sign up with an email, but use your DOE email. I know it sounds like counterintuitive, but that's what you're going to have to do. Just wanted to highlight that in case anybody runs into that issue. Holly.
And I was also going to say, someone did ask about quizzes.
Oh, yes. No.
But if you want to explain that, Jackie.
Yes, you are no longer able to use that particular function where you would assign directly from Common Sense into your classroom. It is a privacy thing. You can still access the quizzes though. You can still see them, and then you can, I believe you can copy them over. Tali, I forget exactly what we did, but you can't do the direct move into classroom, and it's just for the better that way. So yeah. Use the quizzes as standalones without pushing. Yeah, it's for the better.
We'll explain for the later. I just want to say, first of all, so helpful in the chat. So many great ideas of how to incorporate this and who to share it with different partners. I saw someone mention October. October is Digital Citizenship Week. It's the third week in October. I think this year it's October 14th week. But yeah, that's another great place. And our website, we always have daily activities for Digital Citizenship Week, which you can stick on Digital Citizenship Week or spread out throughout. Respect for All are also these larger entry points in terms of administration getting involved. I know there was a lot of conversation around SEL and family engagement. Those are big focuses for most schools. Those are big focuses for the chancellor. And these really connect and support that as well. So am I missing anything? Anything else to add, ladies? Okay. We also do have our email addresses at the top of the agenda. Feel free to reach out whenever. Laura has dropped in the chat a survey. This is a survey for Common Sense. If you don't mind taking it, it should literally take you 30 seconds. And that just helps us make sure that these professional development offerings are helpful or what we might need to do to tweak them.
It also helps keep
Yeah.
resources free. Let's be
Yes,
very
it does.
clear.
It does.
This is
We can say to foundations, look how many people are using it. So we,
I always feel like we need to remind folks, this is how you keep really quality resources
Yeah.
free. So please
Yeah.
fill that survey out for us. It helps ensure that these resources keep on staying free and that we add new ones.
That's right. That's right. And I know we're going to get kicked out in a minute, but wanted to thank you all so much. What an engaged group, and really appreciated your insight. I hope we can keep the chat. Can we keep the chat? Because this is
They'll send us a whatchamacallit, a printout of it.
okay. This is great. Yeah. And thank you, ladies.
I appreciate all of you
everyone.
here. Yeah, thank you. This was a fabulous group. You guys were awesome in the chat. Really great questions, really great thoughts. So continue to have a fabulous day. I'm going to plug our next session. We'll be right back here. If you're wanting to learn about AI and AI literacy, which is a really important topic within digital citizenship, it's in the umbrella. You can come back on in 10:45. So take that bathroom break, get a sip of coffee, sip of water, whatever beverage of choice, and then we'll see you at